Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hand Spinner Review Spot YouTube channel. You can click on the link in the description below to take you to our Facebook page. Please give us a like and subscribe on both of them if you like what we do. And today we're going to have a look at this guy here once again. There's already a full review written and video up on the channel and the page of the one drop Trillium. And today we're going to do just a quick video looking into the options that have been given thus far and my thoughts on those options, and also a couple of small mods that you can do that might improve your Trillium if it needs it, or if you're just fancying having a bit of an experimentation day. So, you all know about this. I'm not going to do a size comparison because you can go back to the original review if you want to see that. This is the, this is the one drop Trillium, as I say, in the configuration with the stainless steel buttons. Now, this has actually got a different bearing in it at the moment because I'm testing a few things, but we can ignore that because it's not actually important. Basically, this is still one of my favourite spinners. I still have all the good things to say that I did in the original review, but there are a few things that you can do. Now, when it comes to the buttons themselves, as you probably already know, the piece actually ships with these two options. One's titanium, these are 28 grams, and the brass are 73 grams. These provide a huge range of feel. It's like night and day switching between these. This gives you a very, very heavy spinner with a lot of heft to it. This gives you a very light, agile spinner. These are the stainless steel buttons. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's only been one drop of these so far. That's a bit of a pun, I suppose. There's only been one drop from one drop of these so far. But they were actually what I was crying out for when I originally reviewed the Trillium, and what I was really hoping would come about. And it was a bit of a surprise when they did a quick drop of these that I think I only came across because I happened to be on SpinSpace at the right time. And yeah, they sold out quickly, but I'm sure there will be more drops of these soon. And after the current drops of the Trillium, I think we might have already passed them actually, I would expect there to be a little run of these done in the middle at a guess. It is just a guess, I don't have any inside information on that, but it is possible. So, these are 48 grams. So if you remember, 28 grams, 73 grams, 48 grams. And that radically alters the overall feel. You get something, very much unsurprisingly, between these two, and it just feels great. It has a bit of heft to it, but it's agile, it's fast. It's the smaller diameter that you get on the titanium, which is my preference. I don't have terribly large hands, and this makes the spinner much more comfortable. Yeah, it's just great. So, if you can get some of those, I really would, particularly if you're left feeling like these are maybe a touch light and these are maybe a touch heavy. So keep an eye out on places like SpinSpace, as I say, but also on all the one drop, their website and everywhere else. Just keep on checking their store. So let's talk about a couple of things that you could do. Firstly, the bearing inside the one drop comes shielded. Loads of people love this bearing. It's being used by loads of other spinner manufacturers. At the moment, there's a lot of hype around it, and for the most part, I can understand that hype because it's a really good bearing. So, what can you do to that bearing? Well, you can de-shield it. Now, as you can see, I've put this one into a stubby body because I'm doing a bit of experimentation with these bearings, particularly because there's so many people at the moment that absolutely love them. It makes sense to me to try them out in a few other spinners and see what I think overall. So, all you do, these are the shields that came off of that bearing. Essentially, you have this inside the bearing itself, and then you have this little retaining clip. Get yourself something very, very fine like a pin. Be careful when you're doing this, obviously, and if you're a kid watching this, then definitely get some adult supervision. But get yourself a pin or the very tip of a very fine X-Acto knife. Just slide it into the corner and lift it from that point. It works very easily. I found this. Some shields can be a bit of a pain, but this wasn't at all. I then took that out and cleaned it, and sure, it introduces just a tiny bit more volume to the spinner, but to be honest, so long as it's clean, I actually probably prefer it. And the reason for that is, when you have a shielded bearing, sure, it stops large pieces of debris getting into it, but it doesn't stop very fine stuff getting in. And even though I use pouches and carry cases and all the rest of it, I'm pretty careful with my spinners, I still end up having a slightly gritty feel after a certain amount of time, and I prefer a bearing that, yeah, sure, it's going to get dirtier quicker perhaps, but I can actually get the debris out very easily. And in a different spinner, yeah, sure, the one drop bearing is pretty impressive. It seems to lower the amount of lash, maybe the wobble that you find on a bipole spinner, and it has a sort of dampened quality. Obviously I'm not here to just talk about this, but it is relevant considering what we're talking about with the overall look. So that's one of the main things you can do, apart from buying further sets of buttons like this, or I should say weights. You can also do things like that. You've also got then a discussion over flaming a set of weights. This is another set of titanium weights, and these have just been flamed by myself to a blue finish, as you can see. Well, I wanted sort of a bluey, purpley mixture, sort of an oil on water look, and they came out fine, and they work very well. One of the other things, which is a really low-tech, if you have an issue with the balance of the Trillium, and you do sometimes find that depending on how you fix the weights, so sometimes you'll put this all back together, you'll do it so that you tighten them all individually and incrementally up to a point, but you end up with a tiny bit of wobble on one finger spins. What I tend to find is that if you then unscrew them all a bit, or you swap the top sections of a couple of them, you can find a way of getting everything perfectly in balance. But sometimes you can't, and I have had a set of weights which had this problem. So really low-tech way of doing it is that inside these you have your threaded section, it's a little grub screw, and you can see there's a hole in that grub screw. What I did was I just took some blue tack or white tack or whatever you have around. I took a tiny bit of that and I put it on top of one of the weights and then span it. It would either make the wobble worse or better or whatever. I found out which one effectively, with the extra weight, was helpful, and then I got that weight just right using tiny bits of tack until I get to the right weight. You could use other things as well, but obviously the advantage to the blue tack is that you don't have to keep on unscrewing, then putting it in, then unscrewing, then putting it in to see which one actually works. Then all I did was take it and fill the little hole inside the bearing with that amount of the tack that I'd put on there, and to be honest with you, it completely resolved the wobble issue that I have with one set of weights. And you've got to remember that in a modular design like this, that will happen from time to time. One Drop, I'm not saying that this is a perfectly smooth single finger spinner all the time. Some sets of weights will have very, very tiny tolerance issues, and in a spinner that will cause a tiny bit of wobble. That won't bother a huge amount of people, but if it bothers you and you want that dead smooth, silky quality that the Trillium is known for, but on single finger spins, I would suggest that that's just a really low-tech, easy way of looking into it. So yeah, that is just a quick video on a few things you can do to your Trillium, or ways that you can work around your Trillium, or indeed places you can put your spare Trillium bearing. There you are, guys. Hope that was of some use to you. And let me know if you want to see more videos like this that aren't full reviews but just touch on some other ideas. And certainly if you have ideas for these sorts of videos, drop them in the comment section below. Thank you very much, guys. See you again. Bye-bye.